October's a big month for me because I'm a big Halloween person, big horror movie person. So I love October. However, I feel like I never have a good October. But this year I really tried to watch a lot of horror stuff, just a lot of stuff in general, just because I was really burnt out all month. A lot of things did not go the way they were supposed to go. So I was kind of depressed a lot of the month, which sucks because it's Halloween month. It's my favorite month of the year. I watched 30 things in October. I started a movie on Halloween and I finished it November 1st because it was going too late and I had work in the morning. So I had to finish the 30 and a half. So the first thing I watched this month wasn't until October 8th, and it was the movie Totally Killer that came out on Prime. It was kind of cheesy, but I think overall I did enjoy it, and I would love to watch it again and do a proper review of it because I thought it was a lot of fun. It wasn't a quote-unquote classic. It's not something that sort of is going to change how slasher movies are or whatever. It was fun to watch. There were a lot of actors in it that I sort of recognized from like Disney Channel and stuff, so it was interesting to see them sort of like grown up and not playing characters on a Disney show. Like I think the girl that plays the mom in the 80s was on like Kickin' It, so it was interesting to not see her doing karate. But overall, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Enjoyed watching it, need to watch it again. October 9th, I watched The Exorcist Believer. I didn't watch this because I wanted to, I more so watched it because a lot of people were saying it had a lot of anti-abortion like notions in it and stuff, and it was like secretly like a very anti-abortion movie. So I was like, this is weird. I need to watch this to see why they did what they did. And it was kind of people over-exaggerating that whole theme, but it just wasn't good. It felt like The Exorcist trying to do a Halloween 2018, which I think that's the whole point. You do a movie 40 years later. David Gordon Green directs it. It just really fell flat. I do think, and I did read that there was a lot of stuff cut from the movie. There was stuff shown in the trailer that wasn't in the movie at all. I do think they tried to do something different and unique, but it's been almost 50 years since the original Exorcist, and I feel like you can only do so many more exorcism movies before they all become the same thing, because there's kind of only a few ways to get possessed, and then if it's an exorcism related movie, obviously you're doing an exorcism to get the demon out. So I feel like after 50 years, there's not a whole lot you can do. They tried to mix it up by having 2 kids as like the possessees, but it just sort of didn't do what it wanted to do. But apparently they're doing a trilogy, so let's hope the next one is slightly better. So October 10th, I watched Mr. Dress Up, The Magic of Make-Believe. My mom was a big Mr. Dress Up fan growing up, and she was really excited about this documentary, and my mom does not get excited about movies ever, unless it's like Paddington or Postman Pat. She has a very niche view of what movies she would like to see, but she was very excited about this. She wore her Mr. Dress Up shirt. Like, I came over and we had supper that night and we watched it together. It was really nice. It made her cry. That was the only thing I had to say in my review. It made my mom cry. I've never seen her cry at a movie before. She teared up at the end of Paddington 2 when Aunt Lucy and Paddington reunited. But this movie made her cry. It made my boyfriend cry. I tried not to cry because everyone else was crying. But it was touching. I feel like I didn't watch Mr. Dress Up when I was little because it was off air by the time I was born and sort of old enough to be like conscious of what I'm watching on TV. I was big into Blue's Clues and The Big Comfy Couch. So those were sort of my shows, and it wasn't really at a time where like streaming services were a thing, obviously in like the early 2000s. So it wasn't easy for my parents to like get their hands on like a DVD or a VHS of the show for me to watch. Obviously, they're probably just going to let me watch what's on TV because it's on TV. But, you know, if down the road I did ever have a little bebe, I would probably get them to watch Mr. Dress Up because it seems like a really cute show. And the documentary was absolutely amazing and super, super touching and, like, heartbreaking when sort of you get to the part and where his wife dies and then he starts having health problems and stuff. It's quite saddening, but it's beautiful to look back on the legacy that he's created and how many people's lives he's changed. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Really good, made my mom cry. October 12th, I watched a movie that I have been meaning to watch for 2 years. I just never got around to it. I watched Frankenhooker. I absolutely loved it. I think it is my favorite Frankenstein reimagination film. You know, it was a blast to watch. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is a bizarre film that is all over the place. There's super crack, and the main guy just has the most insane accent and stuff. But oh my god, it was so fun to watch. The only critique I really have is that it's over so quick. It's just like you think you're at the climax of the film and then it just rolls credits and you're like, I feel like I'm missing like the last 15 minutes or something. It is delightful though. And I'm really surprised they never, like, this feels like one of those movies that would have gotten like 3 or 4 direct to VHS or DVD sequels. But it never did. Or maybe I didn't see any on Letterboxd. Maybe they're out there, but they're just not recognizable enough to have on here. But if you haven't seen Frankenhooker, I think it's still streaming on the Criterion channel. So please go check it out for the most batshit 90 minutes of your life. So on October 13th, Friday the 13th, I did not watch a Friday the 13th movie. I instead watched what I think is the greatest concert film of all time. I put on my little black outfit and I went and saw Taylor Swift the Eras Tour concert movie. Opening night, well, not opening night, because literally opening night was Friday, and then Wednesday they were like, just kidding, it's opening tomorrow. But just the way me and my best friend's schedules lined up, it was just easier for us to go Friday, and we had the perfect seats on Friday, and it was sold out. It was amazing. We got there super early so we could get the popcorn bucket and cup in time, and we did. It was absolutely amazing. You know, I laughed, I cried. Like, everyone in the theater was singing and dancing. It was a beautiful experience. I know it's like cheesy or whatever, and there were the videos of people on TikTok, and the theaters were like going crazy, and people were like dancing in the front the whole time. And I think that's really cool. At my theater, sort of everyone stayed in their seats or whatever, but for the majority of it, people were up and dancing and singing in their seats. I just loved it. It was so heartwarming to be in a room of people that were all as excited to see something as I was and were vocally excited about it. It was a theater experience like no other, and I'm so glad I got to be sort of in the first big crowd for my city. Yeah, it was really, really nice. So after that, on October 14th, which was a Saturday or whatever, me and my boyfriend don't have cable. We use my parents' like Bell account to use like their fiber app TV thing on our smart TV. So I think one morning we were just sort of flicking around trying to find something to watch while we ate our breakfast. And When Harry Met Sally was just starting on like the W network, I think, or whatever. So we sat down and watched it together. I love When Harry Met Sally. It's one of my favorite movies. My boyfriend watched it with me on New Year's, but he was sort of half watching it, half playing Pokemon on a Switch, I think. And so he actually watched it with his full attention span, and it was the first time I laughed myself to tears watching it. I never have before. I mean, obviously I've like chuckled and stuff, and I love the movie, but just the part where they're shopping for a gift and they're singing on the karaoke machine, and then they go to Carrie Fisher and her husband's house, and Harry flips out and he goes, 6 years later, you're singing Surrey with the fridge on top in front of Ira. And I burst out laughing, and I laughed for like a minute straight, and I was fucking crying because I was laughing so hard. It was so funny, and I love this movie so much. It gets better every time I rewatch it. It's so good. It's so good. So I think also that night, I sat down and rewatched half of Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2 on the last drive-in, like an older episode. And then I finished it that Sunday morning with my boyfriend. And this movie is so campy and fun. The logic in it doesn't really make sense, but I think it's okay because it is absolutely ridiculous. I love it. It's a very Canadian film, which, you know, is really cool. Not a whole lot of Canadian horror classics out there. So it's cool that this one is like distinctly very Canadian and stuff, you know, Michael Ironside, and like I think they filmed it in Saskatchewan. I know the school is called Hamilton High, and I know there's Hamilton, Ontario, so it's somewhere in Canada. this movie's so ridiculous. The Prom Night franchise, after the original, goes so batshit balls to the wall, and I adore it. So that night, there was another movie I watched that I had been meaning to watch for a while, because, you know, people always talked about it and stuff, and they covered it on the last drive-in, so I was like, what the hell? I love Joe Bob, so let's watch it on there. It was Possession. I really wanted to watch it. You know, I've seen people take the clip of what's the wife character name? I can't remember her name, but her freaking out in the subway and like beating the grocery bag around and like put Mitski music over that and be like me when I'm a girl. And I was like, so true. So I watched it and, you know, I enjoyed it as much as you can with a film for this type of subject matter. It's very heavy and very dark. I didn't hate it, but I finished it, and my boyfriend was like, oh, like, how'd you like the movie? And I was like, I feel like I'm not smart enough to talk about it. Like, I feel like this is one of those films where you need to have, like, a background in, like, film theory to be able to discuss it. I feel like I wasn't smart enough to be able to say anything about it. And even talking about it right now, I feel like I can't say anything about it. Because it's not that it was too much for me, but I don't think I understood it like I was supposed to. So after that, I got a press accreditation for the Toronto After Dark Film Festival. So the majority of what I watched this month was review screeners for this. I did all my reviews over on Infamous Horror, on their website and social media, if you want to pop over there and check those out. So yeah, the first one I watched was the one I was most excited to watch. It's called Thriving, a Disassociated Reverie, and it's about dissociative identity disorder. And I thought it was really interesting because sort of in recent times, sort of the only other media thing I know of about dissociative identity disorder is like the Wonderland system on TikTok, which isn't a great example of it. But this short is so incredibly well done. It ties in this like zombie invasion theme with like on-screen definitions, and they've got animation, and the music's great. The colors are beautiful. It is a visually stunning short. It is so good. Excellent score. I absolutely love it. If you come across this at a film fest, you gotta watch it. Then I watched a short called Your Money's No Good Here. This felt like it could be a I Think You Should Leave, like a Tim Robinson sketch. I've never watched that show. I just know the 55 burgers, 55 fries thing. If you're into sort of that, this is great for that. Sort of SNL sketchy in a good way. Not in a Jake Novak, I want to be the next SNL cast member, so here's why I should be a contender. I'm not going to recite. I don't know the rest, but I just know the next line is, hey, Lorne Michaels. Anyways, it's bizarre. It is bizarre. I enjoyed it. It's balls to the wall. After that, there was a silent film in the program, which was really cool, called Colin Carvey's Long Halloween. And I cannot believe almost 100 years after silent films were a thing, that a short made in 2023 was able to pull off the same effectiveness as an original short film. Lots of really good gags, funny script. It was a really effective, cute, and funny silent film slasher. And it kept my attention a lot more than any other silent film I've tried to watch. So, very happy about that. The next short I watched was one called Bird Hostage. I cannot say enough about this one. It is so good. It is so good. Amazing puppetry. Amazing parrot puppetry. Good story. You know, the production design is a big part of it, and they pulled it off so effectively, and it looks so good. I loved every second of this short. I don't want to give the whole story away, so definitely check it out if you come across it. After that, I watched a short called Demon Box, which is really interesting. It's a filmmaker whose film kept getting rejected from film festivals, so he almost laid a commentary track over it to sort of share his feelings on it. So it was almost like you were watching the film with the director's commentary, and it was so unique and like harrowing at times, but also with the commentary, it's also lightening incredibly tense moments, and it was crazy to hear someone critiquing their own work in real time. I almost wish I had seen the original short first, and then the version with the commentary and sort of the director's re-edit of it, because it was just like very good, but also like heartbreaking and just like heavy, but in a good way. Then I watched a short called Forgotten Lake. I won't give away the twist. I love a summer camp slasher. I kind of enjoyed this short more than I have enjoyed any Friday the 13th or Sleepaway Camp movie ever. It's campy, but it's also campy, and it leads to an amazing but goofy climax. Really good costuming and special effects, and it is refreshing. And if you see it, you will understand why I said it's refreshing. So then I think I moved on to the pre-features category. Everything I had watched beforehand was in the Canadian Shorts program, so now I'm in the Canadian pre-features, which are shorts they played before full-length movies. The first one I watched, I obviously, like, every time I watched a program, I always picked the one I was most excited to watch first. And in that case, it was this one called Pool Party. You know, it is the embodiment of the phrase, hell is a teenage girl. And there's probably something prolific that I could say about girlhood and stuff, but someone else has probably said it a lot more eloquently. And just like I said with Possession, I feel like I don't have the film theory knowledge to be able to talk about films in a smart way. But this is shot beautifully. It's acted incredibly. Very good title card. I am a sucker for a good title card. If your film has a good title card, I'm going to talk about it in my review. It's got a really awesome poster as well. Posters and title cards are something I will always point out if they're good and I like them. But Pool Party was amazing. I would love to see a feature-length version of this. So then I moved on to another short called Ghosts Do Not Exist, and I am someone who has a deep-seated fear of the paranormal. I don't do ghost stuff. I tolerate, like, demon stuff. Like, I am not a fan of ghost stuff at all. So I was a little worried watching this that it was going to freak me out too much. And especially sort of the thing he says into the mirror over the course of the film, which I'm not going to say because that's how paranoid I am about paranormal stuff. I thought that was gonna sort of make me be like, oh, I don't really want to watch this. But you know what? I am so glad I did. It's got a very sweet but visually off-putting ending that sort of makes the entire journey of the film worth seeing. Really good production design. I'm a sucker for good production design. Sort of the focus of the paranormal fades into the background. It's not the main thing. And we've got this paranormal professor on a quest to summon basically anything he can. And you'll see why once you watch it. So definitely check it out if you can find it. Then there was another short called Asterix 666, which is another silent film. It's really cool that this festival has 2 silent films in their programs. It was really good. It was like old-timey feeling. I think it was shot on Super 8. It's got a very video game reminiscent soundtrack, and I think overall that creates sort of a recipe for success. It's got a lot of texture and grit to it, and there's an incredible stop motion sequence at the end that reminds me so much of like the meltdown sequence at the end of The Evil Dead. This is definitely a film to seek out. Then I watched a short called Black Paris. Honestly wasn't truly a fan of it. I know one of the other Letterboxd reviews said that the director of it just made it because he had access to a V screen, I think it's called, like basically a giant screen that he could put stuff on visually that makes it look like you're there. So a lot of this was done sort of CGI wise. The only thing was this lacked a lot of backstory. It feels like you're stepping into the middle of a story, and I thought it was going to be all in black and white, which was cool, but that sort of goes away after a minute. And obviously with no backstory, it's kind of lacking in motivation, and I didn't really get it. This is sort of one of my least favorite things I watched, which feels mean saying because I know how hard it is to make a short and get it in a festival. But yeah, Black Paris was mid. I'm sorry. Then there was another summer camp short called Camp. And when I was writing, usually when I write stuff like review-wise, I always take notes of things I enjoy. And this one hooked my attention so much, I barely could take any notes writing it because it was so good and I couldn't look away. It's thrilling. I want to see a longer version of this. They've got 3 child actors that star in this that are all incredibly, I don't know if eye-catching is the right word, but it's like damn, like I cannot look away from the screen because you are acting so well. And you're not just acting it well. I feel like they really embodied their characters, and this is definitely something people need to seek out and watch because it is so good. Then I watched another short called Mystery Box, which ultimately just reminds you not to fuck with the dark web. They've got some really cool semi-computer integrated webcam footage stuff, which I think works really well in the story. I would have liked to see more of that. It was really well lit, and overall just had a very creepy vibe to it. The next short I watched was called Rec Volton Alien Hunter. The guy kind of felt like a Star-Lord ripoff, and it's got decent visual effects. I kind of wanted to enjoy the campiness of it. And I don't know, it was just sort of like weirdly placed where a lot of the other stuff was sort of full-on horror, and this was more like sci-fi action sort of. So it kind of like, I'm not gonna say it killed my vibe, but it just like, it kind of caught me off guard. It wasn't really my thing. It's got the qualities of a good short, but it just wasn't really what I wanted to see. I mean, obviously, if you're sort of into more like 80s sci-fi action stuff, you'll definitely enjoy this. But I didn't really enjoy it. Probably one of my least favorite things I watched. After that, I watched another short called Sole Proprietor. This film had the best poster of the festival overall, and my brain was doing backflips and front flips and like running marathons the whole time trying to figure out what was going on in the best way possible. It's a visually stunning short. It was very well acted. They've got a lot of really cool effects that I dig, and I feel like this was definitely set up as a proof of concept, or like this will be made into a feature eventually, because it's so cool, and it's such a unique idea that I haven't seen before. I would 100% rather watch a trilogy of these than have another David Gordon Green Exorcist movie ever again. So the next short I watched was called Exemplar or Zemplar. It was another religion-based short. It was kind of like a rotoscopy effect, but it kind of looked like the Telltale games, like sort of cel-shaded. It kind of felt like a video game cutscene more than a short, and I felt like there was a lot of motion blur in it. It wasn't really my thing, and it did sort of feel out of place amongst all the other horror shorts in this category. But I really commend the visual effects artists for creating this. It was cool to watch, but I just feel like it didn't do a whole lot for me. The next short I watched was called Bye Bye, and a lot of these shorts in the pre-feature program have CGI sets, and I think this one maybe pulled it off the best. It's really short, but it keeps you hooked the whole runtime. It definitely feels like there's a lot more story to be fleshed out, and I know these are sort of quick, probably because of how high budget they are and stuff. Did sort of feel like I was stepping into a story in the middle of it, but, you know, I didn't hate it, but I gave it 2.5 stars. I just kind of wish there was more to it. Then the last short I watched at the Toronto After Dark Film Festival was a short called Gamesmanship. You know, I just sort of battered those sci-fi shorts and said they didn't really fit in the program. And this one is Christmas themed, so it's like smack dab in the middle of October, Christmas short. It's very reminiscent of Ready or Not from 2019, and it very much reminds you of how frustrating it is to play charades and watch the other team fail miserably and you can't do anything about it. They've got an actress from Cult of Chucky in it. This definitely is not for the faint of heart or those that are sensitive to very nasty but cool looking gore. Overall, really enjoyed it and would love to see more from this story. This definitely felt like the climax of a story, and I would love to see sort of what happens before and after it. On October 23rd, me and my boyfriend watched the last drive-in Fear Fest Halloween special that Joe Bob did. So we just rewatched, 1978 Halloween with Joe Bob's commentary in between scenes. You literally cannot get a more Halloween movie than Halloween. I mean, look at the title. I mean, it's such an important film in horror history that I have to love it. It definitely has its flaws and faults and stuff, but it's Halloween, bro. It's Halloween. You can't say anything bad about it. You gotta enjoy it. It's Halloween. On the 27th, I had a very important experience personally which was seeing The Evil Dead on a big screen. Sort of our local musical theater did a screening of a bunch of horror films, and the last night they were screening The Evil Dead, so I got tickets, and me and my boyfriend and my best friend went, and I got to see a movie that means more to me than any other horror movie I've ever seen in my life, and I got to see it on a big screen with my two favorite people in the world, and an audience full of people that were also excited to see it, and God, I just poured my heart out in my Letterboxd review. This is probably the 100th time I've seen that movie. It means so much to me. I love The Evil Dead so much, and it was so nice to be able to see it the way it was meant to be seen on a big screen, because beforehand, like, I got into horror stuff during, like, the first wave of the pandemic, so everything I've watched horror-wise for the majority, like in terms of all the classics and stuff, has been on my computer or on the TV in my bedroom. Like, I've never seen some of these classics on a big screen with, like, surround sound and stuff. And unfortunately, the projector that they showed it on wasn't really color calibrated, so sort of any bright whites were blown out and a little bit hard to look at, and they had the audio up so loud that the speakers were crackling. But God, there's nothing like seeing your favorite movie on the big screen. Nothing compares to seeing that. And people clapped at the end, and, you know, this movie's such a big part of my life. It was just so amazing to hear people cheer for the people that, you know, have done so much for me without doing anything. Like, they made this movie back in the 80s. Well, technically the late 70s, because I started filming in 1979. Because I'm an expert on this movie. It meant so much. It meant so much to me, and I adore that I got to see this in person on the big screen. And then finally on Halloween, after my disappointment of getting one trick-or-treater, you know, first Halloween in my own house, just first homeowner Halloween, I got one kid. So I was very upset, so I watched Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was okay. This went to theaters, and after we saw The Evil Dead, we were going to go see Five Nights at Freddy's. However, every single screening was sold out, and there were 14-year-old teenagers cosplaying the animatronics just everywhere. So we were like, we can't be here. Not that we were going to, like, do anything, but it's just like, this is not the vibe that we want to see this movie in. And obviously in the US, it also went on the Peacock streaming service, but we don't have that in Canada. But I guess someone turned it into, like, a Discord meme where it's just the entire movie in a Discord file. So that's how I watched it. I literally was streaming it off of Discord, which was very, very strange and very, like, when I log stuff on Letterboxd, I like to put sort of what streaming service or where I watched it in the tags. So I had to tag it Discord, because that's where I watched it, because someone pirated it and then turned it into a Discord link and then just sent it around. Very funny. But yeah, the movie, it was okay. I've never been a big FNAF person, and, you know, I just more so wanted to watch it to be with the times, I guess. But yeah, I mean, they're obviously setting it up to do a franchise. I think it was okay. And then I guess I will mention the half of a movie I watched, where I'd already watched Halloween, just sort of after we had finished FNAF, just while I was, like, tidying up the kitchen and stuff on Halloween night. I just stuck Halloween Ends on, because I kind of wanted to rewatch it, because I enjoyed seeing it in theaters last year. It's not my favorite movie. It's not a perfect movie, but I enjoyed watching it. I sort of went in with no bias, which I think was a good thing to do. I give it 3.5 stars. It was an enjoyable rewatch. It's very cliche at times, but it's not as bad as people make it out to be. So that's everything I watched this month. 30 things. 30.5 things, actually. I really should have watched another short or something, so I could have watched 31 things in October, but I didn't. Good month for movies. Trying really hard to watch a bunch of stuff in November I haven't seen before. Trying really hard to expand my horizons. Yeah, so if you watched anything of what I watched this month, feel free to leave it down in the comments of what your favorite was, or let me know what your favorite thing you watched this month was, and we'll talk about movies. So thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will hopefully be back with another deep dive video very soon. I have 3 that I'm working on that all meant to come out last month, and they did not come out last month. So I'm very sorry for that. They will be out soon. Thanks for watching again. Bye.